Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Today, we're diving into something that's literally changing the world right now: artificial intelligence, or AI. By the end of this video, you'll understand what AI actually is, how it works in super simple terms, and the crazy ways it's already in your daily life, even if you didn't notice.
If you stop right now, just for a second, and look around, you'll probably realize that artificial intelligence isn't some far-off concept anymore. It's basically a co-pilot in your daily life. It's right there in your pocket, in your phone, deciding which articles you read, the fastest route to drive, even how your smart thermostat works.
Yeah, the ubiquity is it's undeniable. But it's funny, it almost creates a barrier to really getting it. AI is always there, working behind the scenes, processing these massive amounts of data. But the core of it, how it actually functions, is still a total mystery to most people.
Right.
They know it works, but they don't know how it works. And maybe more importantly, they don't see how it's fundamentally reshaping, everything, their whole professional world.
Exactly. And I think you, our listener, are looking for that shortcut. You want the synthesized knowledge that just cuts through all the hype and, frankly, the sci-fi fear. So we've gone through your sources, and our mission today is to just distill those key essentials. We want to give you a real solid understanding of the mechanics, the history, and what we're calling the necessary future of AI.
Yeah, we're aiming for depth, but without all the jargon. This is the deep dive into the practical side of artificial intelligence. The goal is for you to walk away not just informed, but actually equipped to engage with this technology.
Okay, let's unpack this, and let's start with the big one, the core concept. For a lot of people, the idea that a computer can analyze and decide and even create something new, it feels like magic. So how do our sources define artificial intelligence in the simplest, most practical terms?
Well, at its very foundation, AI is defined as machines that can show human-like abilities. The ability to think, to learn from things that have happened, and then to make decisions or solve problems on their own.
Okay, but if we accept that, we immediately run into a huge point of confusion. Because if AI is really just incredibly sophisticated pattern recognition, which, it is, can we really call that thinking or cognition? Aren't we just confusing really impressive imitation with actual intelligence?
That is the big philosophical question, for sure. But from a practical standpoint, the technology's ability to imitate is what makes it so useful. The key is just understanding the mechanism behind that imitation. It's not magic. It's just statistics on a massive, massive scale.
Statistics?
Yeah. AI systems are fed these just gargantuan data sets, trillions of words, millions of images, you name it. And they just look for correlations, for patterns. They use those patterns to predict the next logical step, whether that's recommending a video or writing a coherent sentence.
That's the real shift then. It's not a static program anymore. It's an adaptive statistical engine. So give us some of those concrete examples that show this pattern recognition in action right now.
Okay, let's start with something you use every day. Personalized content. When you open up, say, YouTube or Netflix, that recommendation engine, it's not just showing you what's popular. It's analyzing everything. You're viewing history, when you pause, what time of day you watch, and it's comparing all that against millions of other user patterns to predict what you'll want to see next.
It's predictive modeling based on millions of tiny little decisions. I think the traffic example is maybe even more impressive because it's happening in real time.
It is. When Google Maps tells you there's a traffic jam 10 miles ahead, it's not just reporting an accident. It's pulling in real-time data from maybe hundreds of thousands of other drivers, factoring in what traffic is normally like at that exact time on that specific day, and then applying a model to predict statistically that a slowdown is basically inevitable.
And then, of course, the most public example of this advanced imitation has to be the generative systems.
Absolutely. The large language models, LLMs like ChatGPT and so on, they really represent the current peak of this learning ability. They've been trained on, basically the entire internet, the whole corpus of human knowledge that's been digitized. So when you ask it a complex question, it doesn't understand the answer like a human does. It just predicts the most statistically probable and coherent sequence of words to form a comprehensive answer that sounds human. Its imitation so good it looks intelligent.
The highest form of statistical mimicry, which is what makes it so revolutionary. But to get that revolution, we really need to talk about the history. Because AI feels so new, but the idea itself is surprisingly old.
It really is. The sources trace that ambition all the way back to 1956. And this wasn't just a casual idea, it was a formal academic proposal based on this dream that machines could one day solve problems the way humans do.
And that year, 1956, that's so key. Because back then, computing power was measured in, entire rooms, not gigahertz. The dream was huge, but the hardware just wasn't there.
Precisely. The early decades were completely imbalanced. You had this massive ambition, but tiny memory and incredibly slow processors. And that led to what we call the rule-following phase, which really dominated the 80s and 90s. This is an important distinction to make.
So what defined that era, the rule-following one? How did those early systems work, and why did they sort of hit a wall?
That era was all about what we call expert systems. These were systems that were explicitly programmed with these enormous flowcharts of logical rules, usually given by a human expert. Think of it like a giant digital decision tree. If this happens, then do that. They were great in closed environments, like playing chess or diagnosing very specific known medical problems.
So they were brilliant at following a script, but completely brittle if you threw something at them that wasn't in the script. They couldn't improvise.
Correct. The programmer had to literally think of every single possible scenario. If the programmer missed one, the whole system failed. And that limitation, that led to a period of much slower growth, a plateau almost. We were just limited by how many rules a human could physically type in.
And this is where it gets really interesting. This is the turning point that launched the real revolution. Our sources all seem to point to this shift happening around 2010. What changed, technically, that allowed computers to finally move past just following instructions and to actually learn on their own?
The change was basically threefold, and it's the technical bit everyone really needs to get. First, you just had a sheer explosion in the volume of data thanks to the internet. Second, we had this exponential growth in computing power, especially by harnessing graphical processing units, or GPUs.
GPUs, which were originally made for video games, for rendering graphics, but they turned out to be perfect for something totally different.
Exactly. GPUs allow for massive parallel processing. They can do thousands of calculations at the same time, which is precisely what you need to train these complex AI models. But the third piece, and this is the most critical one, was the architectural innovation, deep learning, and the revival of neural networks.
Deep learning, that's the phrase that really defines modern AI. So how did that change the game from those old expert systems?
So deep learning uses these layered neural networks. They're basically layers of interconnected nodes, modeled very loosely on the human brain. Instead of a human programmer writing all the rules, the system is just fed data and told, find a solution. The layers in the network then automatically adjust and tune themselves thousands, millions of times to find the most efficient way to spot the patterns. This let the AI develop its own internal logic, its own representations of the world that went way beyond that simple if-then logic from before.
And that ability to self-optimize, to create its own logic, that's the reason we've gone so quickly from this niche research to AI becoming the universal assistant in every part of our lives.
The scope is just staggering. AI isn't a specialized tool for only the biggest tech companies anymore. It's being democratized. And the applications, they really show its growing role as this crucial augmenter of what we can do, what humans are capable of.
Okay, let's drill down into some of those. We always hear about healthcare. What is AI doing in healthcare right now that a human doctor would struggle with?
Well, in healthcare, the difference is speed and scale. AI is excelling in diagnostics by analyzing these massive data sets of radiology scans, CTs, MRIs at a speed and with a precision that's just. It's impossible for the human eye to maintain consistently. It can spot tiny indicators of diseases like cancer, sometimes years earlier than traditional methods. It's like an incredibly fast, tireless second opinion.
That's amazing.
And it also speeds up drug discovery by simulating millions of molecular interactions virtually, which slashes the time and cost to find promising new medicines.
So that's optimization for life. What about education? How is it making learning genuinely smarter?
It's all about hyper-personalized education. AI tutors can track a student's performance moment by moment. They can identify the precise second a student gets confused or where a knowledge gap is. So instead of a one-size-fits-all curriculum, the AI automatically adjusts the difficulty, it provides targeted exercises, and it optimizes the pace of learning for that one individual student.
And it stretches into the physical world, too, into industries we might not immediately think of when we think about algorithms.
Oh, absolutely. In agriculture, for example, AI-driven systems use drone imagery and sensor data to monitor huge fields. They can identify the exact spot that needs water, detect the first signs of a pest infestation, or predict crop yield based on weather. And that leads to these profound efficiencies. You're conserving water, reducing pesticide use, and helping farmers increase their crops all at the same time.
The sources really position AI as this administrative and creative powerhouse. It can replace specialized human tasks all across the board. It truly is becoming a universal assistant.
Just think about the sheer range of things it does today. It drafts legal documents, it creates complex marketing visuals, it handles logistics for supply chains, it translates languages instantly with pretty high fidelity, and it manages everything from editing video footage for better pacing to streamlining customer service. It's taking on the highly analytical, the repetitive, and the purely labor-intensive tasks that just eat up human time.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If AI is handling all of this, the sources seem to provide a very simple, powerful takeaway.
Yeah, the simple summary is that AI is quickly becoming the indispensable assistant for every human being. Its purpose is to augment, to amplify, and to eliminate the mundane, to free up our cognitive load for higher value thinking.
Which of course brings us to the inevitable and often feared conversation about the future of work, about job replacement.
That is the big concern. The popular worry that AI is going to replace people. But we have to be really clear about the critical nuance that comes from these sources, which is AI will replace tasks, not people.
That's a huge distinction, but it needs some explanation. If AI can now handle, say, 80% of the daily drafting and analysis for a white-collar worker, what happens to that worker?
Their job description transforms. The job itself doesn't vanish. It evolves. The person who used to spend 80% of their day compiling reports, now they spend that time editing the AI's report, applying strategic oversight, injecting uniquely human judgment, emotional intelligence, focusing on high-level relationships. The human becomes the editor, the strategist, the one managing the output of the machine.
So, if it's a transformation and not an annihilation, what is the clear, practical consequence for your professional life right now?
The sources are absolutely crystal clear on the competitive edge this creates. The professionals who know how to use AI, who embrace it as an assistant and can manage or prompt its outputs effectively, they're going to move ahead rapidly. They get a multiplier effect on their own productivity. But those who ignore this, who cling to the old ways of doing things, they're going to find themselves at a steep competitive disadvantage. They just can't compete with the amplified output of their AI-enabled peers.
So this isn't just about professional curiosity anymore. It's about professional necessity, relevance. It's like a new layer of literacy you need for the modern economy.
It is. The conclusion is unavoidable. Understanding AI is no longer optional. It's the fundamental tool for navigating the workforce today and tomorrow. To ignore this is to reject the most powerful productivity amplifier we have.
We started this deep dive by saying that AI is everywhere, but it's widely misunderstood. We've walked through its real definition as advanced pattern recognition, its history fueled by deep learning and GPUs, and its current role as a universal assistant that's optimizing everything, from healthcare to paperwork. I think the most powerful insight we've shared today is that the key to thriving isn't about fearing the machine. It's about mastering how to use it.
Yeah, this journey through the source material really confirms that. The future is being built by the people who actively participate in the transformation. The ability of AI to absorb all the world's data and give you instant outputs makes this future incredibly exciting, as long as you're willing to embrace your new role as an orchestrator of intelligent systems.
So, since we now know that AI is set to replace repetitive tasks, to handle the tedious work, and become this indispensable assistant for every single person, here's a final provocative thought for you to consider. What is the most important, uniquely human skill, the one thing the machine can't replicate, that you need to develop and refine now that your new assistant can reliably handle all the mundane work? Because that is the skill that will define your relevance in this new era.